Good morning. Once again, here we meet. As is said in some play or the other, I can't remember which one, in thunder, lightning, or in rain. Well, it's after the hurricane. And we meet again for another press briefing. We've had these daily to keep our people informed about what is happening. It's very important that they know, for they live in their little worlds, so to speak, not understanding that perhaps all of us are suffering the same way. Today we have some very special people. Those names you have heard before, and in particular we have those names here to help us move the process along. Now, some of us suffer in our own little way, in our own little homes, in our own situations. There are stories about people trying to hide away in closets, under cellars, under beds, or just simply running away, wild, into the wind. And what happens after that? What happens after the storm leaves? Do we just forget about it? I don't think we can. No one can. It's heading to 1 month and we're still in the middle of it as far as most of us are concerned. There are people, however, who help us. And today we have two of them with us. And we also have a visiting group from the International Medical Corps here to observe what is happening. They'll not be speaking to us, but their mere presence comforts us, makes us know that we're not alone. We're joined, as always, by the radio stations, DBS, Kyrie FM, and Vibes. So you better watch what you say. It's going all over the world. Facebook, YouTube, what else they have, we are there. That's what we can do. Social media, people listening overseas via the net. We are very careful what we say, because what we say could affect a lot of people and how they feel about what's happening here. We have from Trinidad, I would think, Wendell de Leon, sounds like a lion, some kind of thing, who is a behavioral change consultant and a trauma specialist, behavior change consultant and a trauma specialist, something we need right now, because a lot of people are going through very, very trying moments. They can't even walk, they can't talk, they can't move, they are like paralyzed, traumatized. And then, of course, we have our own Dr. Griffin Benjamin, who is a psychiatrist. That's a nice way of saying he's going to look after your mental health. And they will be talking to us today, and we should listen very close. It's most important. Those of you who don't know my name, let me just tell you. I'm Dennis Joseph, and I'm doing this thing for free, just to let you know that we all are in it together. Let me now call on the good doctor to come and talk to you about what could be happening to you and how you could deal with it. Please welcome Dr. Griffin Benjamin.
Thanks, Dennis. Thanks, Mr. Joseph. A pleasant good morning to Dominicans on island, Dominicans overseas, to our visitors who are here to provide some assistance to us as we struggle through this disaster time, to the international community who we count on to look at us as we look after us as we find it difficult to help ourselves at this time. I say a pleasant good morning to all. As Dennis spoke, he brought home the problems that we are facing now throughout the island, in every village, every town, in every battered home, houses, in every street around Dominica. The cry is the same. What can we do now? Under normal conditions, the Ministry of Health would be paying attention today to World Mental Health Day. Today is the October 10th. And the world has stopped all around us, except in Dominica, I believe, or probably more in Dominica, to recognize, acknowledge, celebrate World Mental Health Day. Last year, when we celebrated World Mental Health Day, the theme was psychological and mental health first aid for all. As a result of that celebration, we found some funds and we trained over 100 Dominicans in teaching them skills on how to provide psychological first aid. I believe this came in handy on September 18th and thereafter. I can't measure, but I believe the 100 or so Dominicans who were trained were able to talk to people in their specific communities as to how to deal with that traumatic experience called Hurricane Maria. This year, the theme for World Mental Health Day is mental health in the workplace. Again, we should be launching our campaign. We should have launched it already. But this campaign this year is bigger than mental health in the workplace. It is mental health for 100% of Dominicans in and out of workplace. And I dare say many Dominicans may not be in the workplace, even if they were in the workplace before the arrival of Maria. At this point, let me express thanks to the Office of the Prime Minister for inviting the Ministry of Health Emergency Operations Center to the Prime Minister's press briefing. The focus of this press briefing is on the psychosocial response to Hurricane Maria. I was pleasantly surprised at the invitation, but I want to say this is very good for Dominica, Mr. Joseph. Today we are acknowledging that the reality of Hurricane Maria is here. This severely damaged our social infrastructure. Things are very different than they were 3 weeks ago. So today I want to focus on two things. One, I want to see if I can describe the relationship between the social devastation caused by Hurricane Maria and the psychological trauma, injuries inflicted on Dominicans at home and abroad. Now, the massive scale of this disaster is evident to all with eyes, all Dominicans here and abroad, and all the people from the international community. Secondly, I want to inform on the Ministry of Health status in terms of the psychosocial response to this disaster. Let me first look at the first point, the psychosocial effect of Hurricane Maria. I can look at it from 2 points of view here. The impact, which everybody knows, and also where we are now. Where are Dominicans today as we face this storm? If we were to review the impact of Hurricane Maria on Dominica, we would realize that Dominica suffered a crushing blow, a severe battering, a beating, and almost complete collapse of the social infrastructure that we built over the many decades and centuries. We were severely traumatized by Tropical Storm Erica. But I want to say, if you compare Tropical Storm Erica with Maria, there is no comparison. The damages of the social infrastructure was caused by two phenomena. First, they acted together, but a Category 5 hurricane. The winds were Category 5 or more. That combined with the forces of the heavy rain and the swollen rivers and the ravines that we did not know existed, they all overflowed. The winds broke the backs of our trees. It removed the coverings of our houses. It flattened the walls of some of our simple homes, dwelling homes around the island. And it downed the power lines for telephone, television, and electricity. It took with it our prized possessions. Some persons could not even find their wedding bands that they rest on the cabinet as they reach home after the wind passed. And at the same time, the accompanying rain ravaged everything in its way from the mountaintops all the way to the sea. Unfortunately, some of our houses, our homes, were seated in the path of the raving river and ravines. The communities of Roseau, Collyho, Colibestre, and other valley villages around Dominica, because we love to build where the water is easy to access, right? These suffered the brunt of the attack by the raving rivers and the swollen ravines. We lost our cars and our other personal belongings that were secured in our homes. We left everything, as on that night we were forced to run for our lives. Unfortunately and sadly, many of us were not able to escape even with our lives. Where are we now? We are in what we call the honeymoon phase. We are in a phase where things are happening and we are just seemingly going along with it. You know, they bring food, we eat, they play music, we dance. We just seemingly to be happy. I am aware that this happiness, like honeymoon, don't last forever. I'm really proud, however, of the general responses of Dominicans to this disaster. And throughout the communities around Dominica, the stories that we are hearing are to help Dominicans cope with this new normal and this new reality. My colleague, my friend here, Mr. Wendell, will talk about his experience in Dominica. I am one of the survivors of this disaster. Wendell is not a survivor of this disaster, so he may be a lot more subjective than I am, and he will talk to us about his experience in the shelters and around Island. But I would say here, the Ministry of Health has come up with a program where we the people who are vulnerable, the people who are in the shelters, the elderly, we are trying to reach every one of them. Our team of counselors and trauma specialists, both locals and visitors alike, we are trying to meet people at the soonest time possible. We encourage shelter managers to allow our teams to reach everyone. For example, we realized when we went to some shelters that the elderly need more water per day than the stronger adults. Water saves lives. We encourage community leaders and district health teams to mobilize their communities. Our team and those experts who have joined us here, we are waiting to be directed to each community around Dominica. We want to hold meetings with your community. At those meetings, persons will be encouraged to express themselves and release the tension and the stress that they went through were inflicted on them by Hurricane Maria. The meetings will give the community leaders and the disaster managers out there a chance to give information on the ongoing relief efforts that is the biggest operation in Dominica right now. We also want to do some more training. We believe, and we continue to invite pastors and other clergy members to attend training sessions with us at the unit or anywhere around the island that we can come, that you want us to come, we'll come. We believe that pastors have a leading role to play in providing what we call practical hope and a better understanding of the human reactions. People look forward at this time to leadership. and pastors are in good position to lead the flock. So also, we invite all trained persons in the field of psychology and social work in Dominica. We must rise. Yes, we are traumatized, but it's time for us to rise up. This is what we went for training, so we can be ready to provide help to Dominicans who need it. You must become part of the psychosocial response team of the Ministry of Health. We invite you to join us as soon as possible. Now, in terms of the media communication, I'm pleased for this opportunity, but our team is present on the national radio station. We have been present from day one, but we have increased our presence over the past week, and we want to say thanks to the manager of DBS Radio, Mrs. Cecil Joseph. He has been hosting every evening, or most evenings, from 7 to 9, a program where Mr. Wendell De Leon and I, we go on the radio station and we allow Dominicans to call us. So we can debrief and we can provide counseling and grief response, help them to deal with the grief that they go through. In the morning also, members of my team, community mental health team, we are available on the radio again, where we provide information as much as possible to Dominicans. We are preparing, and we have gotten some help, promises, to present on a daily basis or hourly basis public service announcements that can give information and a sense of hope and directives to Dominicans as to how to seek help or how to respond to each other in times of need. Now, there's a specific group I want to pay attention to: disaster workers. We would like to be involved in debriefing the disaster workers. Here I speak of organizations like the National Emergency Operations Center, the police and fire, the utility workers putting up these poles every day and night, the relief workers around the island, and of course, health and social services workers. We would like, you all are at a point of burnout right now, and we would like to reach you. We want to reach you, and we would like you to make it possible. Your supervisors must take you into a place where you can save yourself as you try to save others. Normally, we believe that they need to take a break to replace and be replaced by others on the mission. We want to meet with you. Let me express thanks and appreciation before I close. Let me take this opportunity to offer thanks to the organizations that have supported the effort so far. The Health EOC, of which I'm a part, under the capable administrative leadership of Mr. Davis Later, DBS Radio and its manager, Mr. Cecil Joseph, for the radio programs that we are offering. Mercy Foundation, headed by Mr. Wendell De Leon, the trauma specialist from Trinidad and Tobago. Of course, my team, the community mental health team, and my colleagues at all levels of work, the cleaners and everybody who have come to work to assist us. We are also accepting assistance from PAWI. PAWI is the Pentecostal Assembly of the West Indies. Today, 2 certified trauma specialists are arriving from Trinidad and Tobago to join those who are here. On Sunday, we expect 2 other trauma specialists from the University of the West Indies Barbados campus. A few other international organizations are already on island. We speak here of the International Red Cross, joined with the local Red Cross. The International Medical Corps, some of the members are here in the press briefing. UNICEF and the Ministry of Health, joining force with the Ministry of Health, to deliver a program we call Return to Happiness for Children. And there's a meeting this afternoon at Fort Young for which I shall attend, because we shall be useful in that. And of course, the Israel Aid Organization, they are here and they're joining forces with us. So many other individuals and organizations have expressed a desire to provide psychosocial support to Dominicans at this time. We encourage them to organize themselves, be self-sufficient, and then we can accept your offer of help. Dominica at this time cannot provide for you, as we are already stretched meeting the physical and emotional needs of our people. Thank you very much.
There will be different people listening. some, as you say, are elderly, some do not quite understand the word trauma. Could you explain in detail when you say that person is traumatized, exactly what do you mean?
Anyone in Dominica, anyone who was in the path of this hurricane on September 18th and September 19th, the month of September 19th, would have become traumatized by the force of the wind or the rain and the rivers. What do I mean by become traumatized? The impact, the wind and the river, the damage it would have done to your psyche would have overridden or overwhelmed your natural resources or ability to deal with it. So if you push me, that's not a trauma in psychological terms, because I can deal with a push. But if you give me a knockout, which knocked me unconscious, my brain could not deal with it when it came. So I get bazudi, as you say in Dominica, I get stupidity. And that is a trauma, because I need somebody to help me to stand again, or to pay attention so I won't die because you knocked me out. Some people died. They were severely traumatized. Others survived. But the recollection of the event on that night is printed in their memory forever. Every Dominican will say, from now until they're dead, I knew where I was when Hurricane Maria struck Dominica. I was in my bathroom hiding, I was in my cupboard hiding. I crawled on my belly so galvanized won't cut my head off when I was running from house to house. That is a trauma that we'll never forget. So people understand.
Thank you very much for your explanation and your words of wisdom, and the explanation also of the very vivid description of what could have happened to each individual as we went along through the hours of wind and rain. Wind is just a mild way of describing what actually came at us. Some people thought it was a bulldozer that slammed their house, shaking. Thank you very much. We have somebody else, and that is Wendell De Leon. He has been here before. He has helped us before. He's back again to help us now. We call him to address us. He's a behavior change consultant, and he's also a trauma specialist. The word trauma keeps coming up all the time, so perhaps you can continue from where you left off. Please, Doctor. Please, Wendell.
Thank you very much, Dennis. To the Office of the Prime Minister of Dominica, we want to say thank you very much for the invite. Chief Psychiatrist, Dr. Griffin Benjamin, for reaching out to our team from Trinidad to support this initiative. And we know how critical at this time it is important to deal with our mental health issues and, of course, the trauma that would leave us incapacitated in a lot of ways. We are here, and we have basically hit the ground Monday, well, let's say a week from now, a week ago. And we too had our own challenges to get here. But, you know, one would say our desire and our passion to come and provide that support for our brothers across the Caribbean and in Dominica, there's nothing stopping us. And as soon as we came in the Monday, the very Tuesday we were out there. And first thing, met with Dr. Benjamin and debriefed his team because we recognize that they would have been traumatized by their experiences. When we looked across, I can tell Dominica, I guess, let's put it this way, our interaction with Dominicans, they start telling you about Hurricane David, and they skip Erica now and they say Maria. Erica like it never existed. And I can tell you we were here in 2015 for Erica, and When we came in the island and we looked around, it was nothing like Erica. The devastation was widespread. And my heart reached out to every Dominican, almost every other roof, or if the roof wasn't all gone, it probably just had a few galvanized remaining. And we understand that in terms of how that is measured in terms of trauma. As we hit the shelters, our desire, having discussed a plan with Dr. Benjamin as to how we go forward after debriefing them, and basically our main focus and theme would have been to restill a sense of hopefulness, to counter that sense of hopelessness and powerlessness being felt. And our drive took us to a total of 9, a combination of shelters and communities, where we would have gone to grammar school, we'd have gone to St. Martin's School, the Goodhill Church Hall, those were shelters in Rousseau, and then Newtown Community, Loubier, Castle Bruce, Point Michel, Bat Estate, Quilibistry, and Collio. We have scheduled meetings for Quilibistry and Collio again this afternoon because of the extent of the damages up there and the amount of people. I mean, we had gone up there in 2015, and when we look at Collio this time, my heart sank. You know, the church roof, it is like almost the whole roof gone. Where we had done the debriefing the last time no longer exists. And it's sad to see the extent of the damage that has been meted out to our brothers. I mean, they didn't ask for it. And my appeal to the listening audience, not only Dominicans here and Dominicans outside, but our Caribbean brothers, is for us to come together. We could never know when this might be us. And let's come together and let's put our hand together. And I know there are people who are doing that, and for those people, hats off to you guys. The difficult piece of work sometimes is the mental reconstruction. Because when Dr. Benjamin spoke earlier about if the fellow should hit me and knock me out, not only would I be traumatized, but then when I get up, I have a perception of myself. I now have a thinking that I am probably weak, I am probably helpless, and I cannot defend myself. And those are the things that we now have to go back and reconstruct in terms of people's cognitive ability to recover themselves. And we are seeing bits of recovery. We are seeing hopefulness around the islands. We're seeing new growth in the trees. We're seeing the birds coming out again. And we are seeing people starting to bustle again. Some of them are still very numb in how they operate. Some of them are, as Dr. Benjamin said, experiencing the honeymoon phase. But altogether, we want people to move away from the numbness. What I have identified is this storm is really, this hurricane is truly the great equalizer. Because it would have brought everyone from whatever different levels to a sense of humility, whereby we all have to go to the river and wash. But not everyone would feel comfortable having to do that, because I've lost the way of life that I know. I've lost the ability to wash in a washing machine. There's no power. So there's a lot of adjustment that's happening in and around the island. Even the burial process, the burial ritual has changed because we don't have power, so there's no refrigeration process, no morgue to put people to wait on a proper burial with a pastor and a priest and all that. So because the composition set in earlier. So all of these things are very traumatic for some people because people are accustomed to those things. The way we do business is no longer. Based on our outreach, what we have done is, now a CISD is what you call a critical incident debriefing. It's a psychological debriefing that's done, as we said, to reinstill people's cognitive ability to see hopefulness once more and to be able to bring themselves out of the trauma. We have done a total of 18 CISDs across in the communities and shelters we have reached. We have seen a total of 165 individuals, again, within those communities. We have touched over 15 families, and children group, we have dealt with over 11 of those groups. And that's just within the week that we are here. We hope to be here till the end of this week. And I know Dr. Benjamin is when we leave, he has new people coming. But we want to make sure that as much people as he can get, because he himself, he has to manage a process and he's not necessarily one to go there and execute the process. So he needs the support to get the work done. Because the more we can help people rebuild their thinking and regain hopefulness, the faster the development of Dominica, the faster people get their hands on deck and start the rebuilding process all together. We have experienced some stuff, and I want to identify it for you all in the shelters and some of the communities we have gone to. Outside of the issues of grief and loss, because there have been a lot of deaths throughout the islands, we have identified, even in Point Michel, for example, there was one house where there was about 9 people, and those 9 persons, when they pointed out where the house was, I said, where is the house? There's no house. It's just the idea that the house existed, and the house would have been washed down with everybody in it. So far, out of the 9 persons, I think they've recovered 4. That community is still in shock. We spoke to one guy, and it touched me. Because, you know, you think that people would have lost children and stuff. The only companion that he had would have been his goats. And there was one goat in particular he spoke about that would greet him with a sense of love when he came home. That goat is no more. He pointed to us when we walked through the village where that goat was. And there is a man without any sense of somebody there to love him or something there to love him. And there are lots of people who have lost loved ones who are experiencing that. Children, brothers, sisters, where they would have lost. I think people are they're still searching for bodies. They are identified at least 30 plus people still missing across the island. And that may be a number that can increase from what we're hearing. We look at the idea that people are now contemplating migrating. While that might be so, we are very concerned about the impact on families. When people migrate, usually it's the wife leaving with the children for a betterment. But then the husband stays here. What happens in terms of that separation? What is going on with him? Because he is now experiencing a second trauma. The loss of his house, his property, and now the loss of his family. And those are real issues that we need to not only treat with at a one-time kind of thing, but these are ongoing discussions and ongoing therapy that needs to be addressed. We are also looking at the loss of property. And I know Dr. Benjamin spoke about it. But when we talk about property loss, that ring that he mentioned, there are lots of heirlooms and other things that people would have lost in there that you could never recover. Pictures, albums that you would never see again. And then, of course, we have to look at how long did it take me to construct that property? 30 years. And then the hopelessness that I don't have 30 years to rebuild that. I don't have a job. So those are the things that we have to be mindful that if we don't start that helping process and we don't deal with the mental health issue, the psychological first aid that we talk about to cauterize the mental bleeding that would be happening right now, then we are in trouble. Fortunately, we are able to arrest some of those things. Unfortunately, we need more hands on deck. The displacement issue, you know, I know I certainly mentioned it to the PM in that I know we want to go back to a sense of normalcy and get back the schools and have them reopen and stuff. We must be mindful, however, that the shelters are partly where those people are placed. The schools are the shelters. The minute you remove them, we need to have somewhere to put them because they have already lost a house. So if you are going to displace them a second time, you are already going to affect their mental psyche severely. So we are asking in terms of how we try to reinstill normalcy, that there be some sense of delicacy and sensitivity to it. Again, identifying negative and positive coping mechanisms. A lot of times right now in the shelters, there are lots of negative coping. It's what people are resorting to the use of alcohol, people are resorting to the use of drugs and overuse, not just a one-time use. Because that's what, I mean, some of them looted and that's what they do. They sit down all the night. There's no power, there's nothing to do when the night comes. That's what they're going to do. We need to urge people to be very careful Not only we have the issue of the use of alcohol or drugs, but these people are in shelters. We have to look at the safety issue in the shelters as well. Some of those shelters are not safe for women and children, because the individual who might be consuming the alcohol can then see those women and children as victims. And this is a second time again. They are already victims of Maria. So we are urging the people out there, be responsible in your action. We are all hurting in this. So you don't want to put women, children, somebody's wife, somebody's daughter, somebody's sister through that because they are in a place of vulnerability. We also looking at how do we rebuild the strength of the individual. Well, you know what? You all have years of resiliency. You all are probably one of the few islands that would have experienced so many different hurricanes and lived through it and survived and rebuilt. So you all have a level of resilience. Tap into that resilience. Tap into that strength. Yes, at times it feels like I'm fed up. I want to leave here because I can't do it every 2 years. I can't every 2 years be expecting to lose my house or to lose my roof. Well, here's what. There are some people who did not lose their roof. There are some people who did not get significant damage. You know why? Because they listen. Some people out there, they admitted that they're stubborn. People tell them leave the houses and they refuse to because instead of using the experience positively, you use it to say, nah, nothing would happen. And then it happened. Use that experience as wisdom. Use it to help rebuild Dominica. So use the proper type of roof. Use the proper type of storm windows. You know what you need to do. And then do it. Let's not try the shortcuts because the shortcuts would get us nowhere. Relationships. I want to say that because during this time, relationships take a hit. Outside of just people leaving, there's a struggle in terms of how do we cope? How do we cope through the financial issues? Because a lot of us now are unemployed. There's no way to feed our family. And then we have the challenge in terms of at the shelters and at the different community centers, how do we distribute the relief effort, the physical relief effort, the food stuff, the supplies? There's a sense that it is not done equitably. So some people may get, there's a sense that they don't deserve. They have less people in their homes. Some people have over 20-something people in their homes. And they have made their homes into shelters. And they don't get the relief. And they're angry because they're saying, while we want to support the rebuilding initiative, the government is not treating us fairly. And I don't believe this is the government not treating. I think, therefore, the system of distribution needs to be revisited. And there must be some level of clarity. The people on the ground need to understand everybody out there is hurting and everybody out there would have a need. Let us try to make sure that all Dominicans are fed. It's not about an issue where I can't, if I had the money and there were some places open, I would have bought it. Some people have the money, but there's no grocery open. There are few groceries on the islands right now open. We came up here and fortunately we brought stuff. But even that, we find it's finishing because there's nowhere to purchase stuff. So let us be fair and let us also be sensitive. I really want to say this. When you go to do those relief efforts, don't drive around with your vehicle and cry out, come get your relief. People are already dehumanized. Let us not take away their dignity. Let's preserve whatever shred of dignity they have. Treat them as people, as persons. And I'm saying that because, you know what, some of the people who are doing it are not the visitors per se, but are some Dominicans doing it to Dominicans. Let us please respect your brother's hurt and treat them fairly. And with that, there's so much I can say because there's a lot of things that we have been doing as we hit the ground. We intend to go back to a lot of these communities. We want to go to Grand Bay. Right now, as I'm speaking, my team is probably at Michel, and Michel. So, I'm being corrected by Dr. Benjamin. I'll get it, and we also have to go back to some of the other areas. But I want to say in closing to Dominica, you all are actually rising. It might seem slowly, it might be insignificant, but each step gets you away from that place that you once were. So continue in that direction, continue the rebuilding, and to the neighbors out there, the Trinidadians, the Antiguans, the Barbadians, and all the other Caribbean islands. If you want to help, find a way to. Find a way to get in here and get the things done. Find a way to provide the support. And we will rebuild Dominica one block at a time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Wendell. And also, again, thank you very much, Dr. Griffin Benjamin. Any questions for these two gentlemen? If you have any, now is the time. I have only one question. Since nobody else asked, I will ask. What happens after, let us say, the 6-month period, when the world starts to forget Dominica? Something else has come up in France or some other place, and the news starts to drift towards that. We are all but forgotten because of some other event. What would happen to those very same people who now do not hear any more of themselves on any radio or their TV? How do they respond? How would they feel? Any one of you could answer that.
The normal human reaction to a trauma like this hurricane is that we go through phases. And after the first month, which is just a week away, we do expect most of the international support to disappear, because they would have seen us climb on our feet again. They would have seen us look a little alive again, look as if we can walk again. Of course, they may not see the roof come back over our heads in the way they were before. They may not see how difficult it is to find the millions and billions of dollars to reconstruct most of the social infrastructure that is devastated. They may not see that, but they will see individual characteristics of survivability, of living. We all want to look as if we are bouncing back. So the people who leave us after a month would realize that these people are now taking care of themselves. And there's another disaster in Mexico or Ecuador or somewhere in the world. And that's where they will be at the time. The question is, what will happen after 6 months? Dominicans have to take care of ourselves. And the answer I gave earlier was, and we must do it together. There is no way reconstruction can be for some and not for all. This is not Pittsylvan being battered, or Kulibistri being battered. This is an entire nation being battered. So there's no way we can skip houses or skip villages or skip communities and go to the next one. So my expectation is that we're going to do this thing together. Or, the truth be told, we're going down together. So it is left to our leaders and others to find a way to now not compete anymore. The competition for, what I call it, political spoils and tribalism has to go. Because there's not enough really to go around. And if we go into the tribal war, only a few will get and majority won't get. So we have to find a way of coming together. A new order has to be, the new norm has to be developed. If I were to advise our leaders, I would say, unless we find a new way, the international community cannot show us, because they'll be gone, the new way.
My question is, I know you've been very elaborate on how we should go about rebuilding I know you all have been very elaborate on how we should go about rebuilding, and even trying to reach everyone in terms of counseling. But obviously, we're not going to be able to reach every single person. So So for people who are listening now, who may not be reached individually, what can you do for yourself as a person in terms of specifics? What can you do as as a person to help in terms of your own mental stability?
The aim and the objective, the desire is to reach everyone. And if you ask me if we'll reach everyone, the answer is yes. How? That's a different question. How is train as much of the pastors, as much of the leaders as possible, and they will reach people, because we really cannot reach everyone as a fact, but everyone can be reached by their community leaders as they used to be reached before. You see, our systems have to come back. We used to reach everyone before, and the people who used to reach them are still alive, and they're there. It's whether they're activated, whether the training program is in place, whether the mobilizing and the coming together is going to happen. Once that happens, we will reach everyone. Now, the second part of the question is, what can individuals do not to fall by the wayside? Mr. Wendell spoke about it. If we get rid of the negative feelings that can hold us down for a long time, if we begin to appreciate that the storm has passed, the devastation is gone, it's still evident, it is there, but only you can rebuild your life with help from others, yes. If the principle of I can do it, I will do it, I need to be there for my family, if every individual takes that position, I think we'll find the resources in ourselves, because human beings are naturally like that. And we can find other resources to pull it together. It's not easy, but this is the only way forward. So positive thinking is what we ask people to do. Accept the reality, change your thoughts, get to. Let's stop saying the country mash up. And let's say, this is an opportunity to rebuild Dominica, a better Dominica for the older ones, like Dennis. And the younger ones, like Kimani, you know what I'm saying? All right? Once we can agree on those principles, Dominica will be rebuilt. You want to come and join me, right?
Kimani, and to all Dominicans listening, I want to use the analogy of a broken leg. If we have, initially with the broken leg, we have a lot of activity. We have the trauma, we have the wherever it happened, the ambulance take us to the hospital, and there's a lot of attention given to us, like now. And of course, they would have done the operation, they would have repaired the leg, and you are now in a cast. Then the next phase of it is, you wouldn't die, so you acknowledge that. So let's look at how do we move forward. I need to get ongoing therapy. I need to acknowledge that I cannot walk on my leg by myself. Because a lot of times we have the idea, the whole machismo and the whole culture that I don't need this. I could do this on my own. And the fact that you are unwell, it's not evident to you, but it is evident to people around you that your behaviors are not in sync with what is the expected behavior of social norms. But that's okay, I'm all right. I good, I don't need any help, I all right, and we get that. But by the time we start to talk to some of the people in the shelters, the all right reach to and there's a lot of catharsis, there's a lot of emotions then coming out, but I'm all right, And we need to stop the sense of denying that you are unwell and accept the fact that you need the help. You need the therapy to walk again. And with the therapy, walking would be much easier and much faster.
Now, I know Dominicans don't like to be told that they have a mental health problem, right? So I've been here for such a long time. I would say, you're not mentally ill, Just to make you know that you're not mad if you want to use that word. We are not saying that. We are not saying that you're mentally ill. We are saying that your reaction is a normal reaction to an abnormal situation. We are saying that your fractured leg is going to heal normally. It just takes time. And if you bend it before it heals, it will break again, because it needs to get cemented in a proper way, in the correct order. If you bend it, it will bend, and then you can't walk properly. So what we're saying is, your body reacts normally to fracture or to cuts. It heals. To this trauma, your body, your brain is going to react normally. So we're not saying that you're mad or you're mentally ill. We're saying recognize that there's a healing process that is normal. Seek help, get it fixed, just like going to the supermarket when you're hungry. Is it normal to be hungry, Mr. Joe? It's normal to be hungry. But it's also normal to find food to eat, so the hunger will go away. And we do these things as if these things are normal. Why can't we seek help for what has happened, which is a normal response to a very abnormal situation that you don't want to happen to you again? But if you don't recover this time, before the rain fall and before the wind blow, even if it's a minor, this is a Dominican saying, a tropical trough is coming to Dominica. Tropical trough always come to Dominica. But it sounds like a big word with plenty dangerous thing coming to us. No, just a little rain are going to fall tonight. And we thank God for the rain because my barrel at home waiting for water. Unfortunately, houses without roof are going to collect some of those waters. It damages our psyche if we do not get help to respond to that.
Well, I'm checking my leg, you know, it's okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Benjamin and Wendell de Leon. We hope we'll see you after this weekend when you leave, that you'll come back to assist us. We need that. And as has been pointed out by both, sometimes we don't think anything is wrong where everything is wrong. We've come to the end of this briefing and all the information that you were able to give. I do hope that our listeners on DBS Radio, Kyrie FM and Vibes Radio, and those on Facebook and YouTube and the international world through internet nowadays, I do hope that they have been able to hear, understand, and will carry the message. As we say in colloquial language, tell. And that's the most effective way of carrying the message, though some people tell too much, tell. Nonetheless, thank you very much. It is said that if we treat the planet well, it will treat us well. In this fight, in this struggle, if we think Dominica well, Dominica will be well. Thank you so much for coming.